All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Good morning, everybody. Fairly small agenda, so it shouldn't take long to get through. We'll start off with open forum. Patty, did you want to speak, or are you just here for? No, you good? Did you want to speak, sir? No? Okay. So no response, no emails, right, Jessica? No. Okay. So the next on the agenda is capital expenditure requests. Tom.
So we talked about this at the GM meeting about the added expenditure that we're going to inform the Lakes Committee of. Now I've sent the Lakes Committee all of the outside consultant reports. They went out yesterday or the day before, and I think we're getting some feedback. They went out, and I also informed them that the board had approved the added expenditure of the $94,000. When I originally spoke with the board, I said, look, we just need the go-ahead from you guys. We don't need a formal vote. And then after further consideration, I forgot that we were purchasing a vehicle. That does require a vote, so we're asking for a vote on the purchase of a vehicle, so a capital project of $40,000. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mike?
So it's $94,000 this year, and how much is it next year?
It's 110.
And how much is it the year after that?
The same 110, but it could. Yeah.
And it's gonna take us 7 years to get the lakes back where they're at?
He didn't say 7
Okay,
years.
what did he say?
He said hopefully 3 to 5,
Yeah.
5.
we would see the achieve the goals that they have. But my understanding was to maintain those goals that are achieved, it will still require future investments to maintain it. It was my understanding.
But he didn't say how much those investments were?
I was given the impression that we could expect a similar type of expense to be able to maintain the fish levels that they're trying to achieve. So
Okay.
it's more of a
So it's-
perpetuity type investment.
Okay, so it's in perpetuity is what you're telling me for our fish.
That's the way I understood it from what
Okay.
Chris explained.
So then my next question is, how are we gonna pay for that? Where are you gonna get the funds to pay for that? Because it's not in the budget now.
It's not in the budget. Fortunately, we are doing well better than budget. The POA is better than budget by $1 million right now.
Okay, so I did some research last night, and it seems to me that really what's over budget is our golf department. Now, we can say that food sales is over budget, but when you budget a loss, it's not really a gain. So, I'm not sure that I'm in favor of this program or can vote for it until somebody can tell me where the money's going to come from, not only this year, and you say we're doing well, which tells me that you're robbing from the golf department profits to pay for the fisheries. I would like to see a plan from you that's going to show the board and our community how we're going to structure future payments for this program based on the user fees, not just we're having a great year. Until I can see that, I don't think it's something I can support. So,
Well, that part of it is the 94, and because we're doing well, is for this year. You're gonna budget, it'll be in a budget next year. So
Yeah,
that's a
we're
whole
gonna
new,
request.
clean thing to vote on then. It's not forever right now.
Right.
right, but
Budget
I'll go
amendment.
back to, well, then if we're doing so well in the golf department, why aren't we spending that extra money that golf's bringing in on our courses? Because I'm sure if we asked our superintendents if they could use an extra X number of dollars, that they could show where they'd be able to improve the golf experience for us. I just don't think it's fair to ask one group to pay for another.
Well,
So let me jump in for just a moment. It's not just golf. I mean, legal has had great sales.
Right.
So, and we're a team. And there's been years where golf struggled and the other departments had to carry golf. This year, golf is doing great and is helping other departments. And all the departments, we only have about 1 or 2 departments that are performing under budget. All the other ones are doing great. Golf is doing absolutely wonderful. But F&B is doing better than budget. Legal is doing great. This, as a team, we're doing great. So to characterize that we're taking money from golf and give it to lakes, I don't think that's a fair characterization.
Well, if you look at your financials that are on the website, you'll see that we've increased golf expenditures for maintenance by 30% over the last 6 years. Yet revenues have gone up 45%. I think there's some inequity in that. I don't think that, I think when golf's doing that much better, that to take a large amount of money and move it even for this year without proper planning is a disservice to our community.
But golf is also the single largest amenity that is subsidized. It's subsidized more than lakes. It's subsidized more than anything else.
Yeah, it's subsidized.
And that's what we do. We subsidize all the amenities. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying golf is subsidized more than lakes times 3.
On a percentage basis, golf is not subsidized more than lakes times 3. It is not subsidized more than legal times 3. It is not subsidized more than food and beverage times 3. It is not subsidized by administration times 3. It is not subsidized by recreation times 3.
I think it's important, though, that we remember there's a lot of people that use the lakes that don't use the golf courses. It's a community that we are all invested in, and you and I love to golf, and I don't know if you fish, I don't fish, but I still think we have a responsibility to maintain the quality of all of our amenities across the board, whether or not that's a focus of ours personally.
I'm not saying it's a focus. I do use the lake, and I feel very, very fortunate to be able to use our lakes. What I'm saying is I think that we have to have a better plan to come up with the money than just saying, well, we've got a lot of extra money this year. Because at the beginning of the year, I was told, well, we're not going to make any expenses until we see how we're going through the year, and then towards this time, we're going to start doing our expenditures for things. If it was important enough for Tom to ask us to approve $13,000 for a study because he didn't feel comfortable enough doing it on his own, and now to come back and say, well, I can do this, I don't need your permission, that's sending me a mixed message.
I don't think that's the case at all.
It was, you weren't here at the general session. I think you called in.
I called
But
in.
it was 8-0, let's go forward with the rest
I
of the
get
board.
that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
So,
And what was the point in doing a study if we weren't going to address issues that were identified in that study that we shouldn't even spend that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not talking about addressing it. I'm talking about the timing of addressing it. And I don't understand why we have to press forward in such a quick manner when we're coming up on budget season and we can get stuff done now.
Bob, do you have any suggestions on maybe how more fees could be raised for lakes?
Well, I do, but it's not something I'm prepared to talk about here. I think we need to let management make recommendations, and then I think at that point we should have our
Are we
ability
voting on something that is, we're not voting for a 5-year plan, we're voting for 1 year?
Right.
And that's,
Is that correct?
unfortunately, you weren't in attendance, but we talked about doing it short term, whether it would be looking at implementing the plan starting at 27, but we also presented to the board the option of starting the plan immediately, and the members of the board that were present voted in favor.
I'm just saying I don't agree with it, and
I
that
think
wasn't a
that-
binding vote. What that was an approval.
go ahead, Jackie.
I'm all in favor of doing something that the members have a concern about And there obviously has been a concern about the fishing quality of our lakes, and I think that we've paid money to have a study, and we have some answers that our very qualified team agrees with. And I think that if they recommend that, we should go ahead and do that as soon as we can to start getting the turnover. You and I totally disagree on user fee, so I'll welcome that conversation when we get to budgeting, but definitely agree this is not the time to talk about that. But I don't think there's anything trying to be hidden. I think we are real above board, have the Lakes Department all involved in it. And like they said, I think that we need to go ahead in a good year, as you say. We have the funding and we have budgeting coming up to work on perpetuity. And to that answer, if the feeders don't work, we probably won't be doing feeders. If the feeders work great, it may be more money. We'll just have to see what the results of the study are. So.
Jake, Dave?
I think a big part of it too is making sure membership understands to harvest the largemouth bass. That's going to help solve the problem maybe as much as or more than the feeders, because we have too many largemouth bass in the lakes that they catch and release, and we need to harvest those so that maybe we don't need so many feeders. I don't think moving forward it makes any sense to have feeders on all the lakes.
No.
When they talked about over $1 million for
Right.
feeders, I'm sorry, now my brain's fried on something like that. But I do think it's worth the experiment at this time. But I also think we need cooperation from membership to make sure they understand about harvesting the largemouth bass.
I agree with that. I think we've been successful on the golf side where, hey, if you want better golf courses, we have to keep carts off path during the winter for select number of courses, and it's an inconvenience, but they've accepted it. And it's somewhat similar. Hey, if you want to improve the fishing quality, we all got to work together.
I will say this, in sort of a little bit of Bob's defense, I agree that golf seems to be one of those areas where it turns a nice profit now, and yet we were told that we were going to do the Zoysia thing, and it was going to be sort of a 5-year plan, and now it's spread out into a much longer process, even though we've seen the success of the Zoysia and what it's done for the Highlands Golf Course. And so I understand where Bob's coming from. There's a little frustration in the golf community because golf is doing so well, and yet we're not spending maybe the appropriate amount of money on golf to continue to improve.
So the golf is doing great. Absolutely. Golf is subsidized. When you combine pro shop and maintenance, we subsidize golf $2.5 million a year. So they're not making money. Now, that's what we do as a POA. We subsidize all of our amenities, but they're not making money. They're costing us less money. That would be a proper,
That's the way to say it.
We're subsidizing them less is a proper way of saying it.
Go ahead, JP.
Can I go back to the largemouth bass thing? This is just a thought. Why don't we start publishing recipes on how to?
We are.
We
already are.
See?
That was a great idea.
Part of the things. Well, I mean, come on. If you want people to fish for those and get those, where are they published? On the food and
The
beverage?
fishing email that comes out.
Well, then I think marketing ought to pick up on that and push it a little bit.
Maybe even have a largemouth bass tournament.
We
They do.
tried that and it
Tried it.
really didn't work very well.
Okay.
Because we confirmed, because Deborah asked, is there a difference in the taste between, what was it, the
Yeah.
or whatever? And there isn't. It's just, But anyway, I'm glad to know that, but I think we ought to push that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the Fly Tires organization can be a huge help
They
in this
could.
regard.
They could.
All right. Keep moving forward. Thank you, Bob, for your comments, and everybody else for your comments. Rules and Regs Committee policies under review.
So that's going to come up in just a moment. This is policy 1.04. We are asked to essentially set term limits for committee members. It'll be there in just a moment. So what we're saying here is effective July 1st of this year, they may not serve more than 6 months. If they do elect to, if they do 6 years, if they do want to serve more than that, they have to take a break of at least 12 months. We came up with that because at my last community, we had a challenging situation where the person served 6 years, was off the committee for a month, and then was reappointed for 6 more years. So clearly they found a loophole and they exploited it. So don't want to make sure that doesn't occur again. There is no grandfather rule. We only have, to my knowledge, only one committee of the 3 joint advisory committees. We only have one individual that this will impact, and I had a personal conversation with that individual, and they were totally fine with it. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't think we were picking on them. Any questions on this?
I just have a comment, and just remind me, did we discuss, or why is there not term limits for board of directors?
We've never been asked to consider that.
And term limits are by election.
Election rather
I
than.
mean, if the community says, they've wore out their welcome, we need to replace them, the committee actually has that option.
I mean, it's a valid, but you could make an argument either way. If the board wants me to, we can work on that. The next one is a change in the bylaws. And this has to do, so we're working right now on, so we had a suspension. We're not using the member's name. We had a suspension recently, an appeal. We hadn't had an appeal in a couple of years, and so we learned a couple lessons from that. So we're going through and modifying policy 4.02 and 4.02.1, which has to do with appeals and penalizing members. So the Rules and Regulations Committee went through those and had a lot of changes to it. So we're going back and we're going to have to rework that. And the Rules and Regulations Committee will work on it next month, or review it next month. This is kind of part of the whole thing, the change to the bylaws. This one was more straightforward. And we realized in looking at this that it's not as complete as it should be. So it's currently writing with the strikeout, no suspension as mentioned above shall take effect until the member in question has been extended the right to appeal in accordance with policy 4.02.1. The challenge in that is that on rare occasions, but every once in a while, we have a situation where a manager or a director needs to remove that member immediately. It's usually in the bar, usually has to do with too much alcohol consumed, but we have to be able to refuse the right of service. We reserve the right to refuse service. That's it. And so the way it's, but we can't say a restaurant manager is going to say, oh, you have to leave. Oh, by the way, you do have a right of appeal so that we stay in compliance with. That doesn't make any sense. So what we changed it to was when the member is informed of their suspension, they must be informed of their right to appeal. If an immediate and urgent need arises, a member can be prohibited from accessing association amenities by association staff, provided the member is formally notified of their suspension, their right to appeal in a timely manner. So it occurs in the evening. We have that person removed from the property. Within the next day to 2 days, they are informed that they have the right to appeal their suspension. So that would be timely. Any questions?
We've looked at this a lot,
I
so
looked at this a lot. That's all I got. And we'll go through 4.02 and 4.02.1 next month, so it's all kind of together.
Deborah?
Tom, should it say staff or management, or does it not matter?
I think staff is better because we do have situations where the bartenders do work alone. You know, we go through a lot of training. That's our last point of last recourse, is to ask someone to leave. And I don't want to make it sound like this happens all the time, but it probably happens once every year that we have to say, you need to leave right now or we will call the police. It's about once a year. So we're not frivolous, we're not, you know, get out, you know, we're not going overboard. So.
Anything else on this? No? All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda with that exception of announcements. Does anybody have anything else before we go into announcements that they want to bring up? Nope, okay. I'll just go through a couple announcements. The next board meeting, which is the regular session, is August 27th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom, and live stream. Rules and Regs Committee meeting is September 8th at 1:30. That is a different date and time than normal. And another date change because of the holiday is the GM meeting, which is closed meeting, is September 8th at 2:30 here in the boardroom. And everything else is on schedule for next month, and we'll go over it next meeting. You good? Everybody good? Meeting adjourned.